days they produced a mock-up to show where the turret would be, where the bomb bay would be. That's created by the sound of the wind going over the top of the cartridge and the link projection shift just under the fuselage, 20mm panel. We're starting to try to get hold of some FA2 Sabre aircraft from the front service as being allocated to the
G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to the tarmac of Avalon Airshow 2015. We finished off the last video following the Caribou down to its startup area, and we're going to continue on with that there. And you can hear my son in the background there having an absolutely great time. But first off, I got to show you this thing. Now it's a real shame I didn't get more footage of this aircraft. This is Bob Carlton's Salto 101. This thing is literally a glider with a jet engine strapped to its back. HE162, eat your heart out. So back down the flight line, the Catalina has already got its engines running and ready for its display, as does the Neptune. The Neptune, however, has to cancel out as it has a minor malfunction and was unable to take off. And we have the lineup of PC-9As currently flown by the Roulettes. The Roulettes are Australia's, and specifically the RAAF's, Elite Formation Aerobatics display team. It's a real shame the Neptune couldn't get off the ground. I was really looking forward to seeing it in flight. Of course, we've got the Catalina down the end. It is the infamous Black Cat herself. She shows up at almost every single air show that I've been to in the last few years, and as I understand it has almost a perfect maintenance record, which is amazing for an aircraft that was, being a seaplane, was really designed to sort of be throwaway. I know there's a lot of nostalgia about old aircraft, but I think that Catalina goes to show that they really don't build them like they used to. Now you can see just off to the left and the rear of the Caribou here, they've got the ground start cart up. When you hear people talking about ground start carts, that's all they are. A very small battery pack that gets wheeled up and plugged into the side of the plane. The Caribou, of course, is completely able to start its engines under its own power. However, in cases like air shows and things along this line, if you don't need to put the batteries under strain, firing up the big starter motors to hit the engines, there's no reason to. Use the ground start carts to get the old engines up and running. Saves your components, saves your wear and tear, saves your maintenance. The prop wash directly behind the aircraft. Now they're waving us back a little bit at this point, and I was just explaining to the missus why the prop wash off the Neptune in front of us is quite literally blowing away the rain at the moment, because it is actually raining. When the Caribou fires up, at this range would fall on our ass. And I was putting so much focus into the Viper that was flying overhead, I completely missed the actual start-up of the Caribou. So many things to look at and just not enough cameras. Do not ask me why we didn't get F-16s. I have no idea why the RAAF did not get a small fleet of F-16s. These things are awesome. So with the Viper back on the ground, it was time for the old cat to make her way out to the runway and get ready to begin her demonstration. You'd think being an amphibian that she'd probably need a little bit of help moving around the runway, especially being a plane her size, but she had no problem taxiing out at all. There you go, buddy. There's the Caribou. I will say honestly, the Caribou is not a particularly attractive aircraft, but the amount of lift and power it has in those engines and the lift it can generate off those wings, that thing can put down just about anywhere. And there goes the Neptune, and you'll notice she's slowing down. This was the point where I realised that she was aborting her takeoff. Still not entirely sure what happened to her. They taxied her down the far end of the runway and put her off to the left in the taxi parking area and left her down there. Nobody really said anything about it for the rest of the show. The old Catalina is surprisingly graceful when she flies. So, you remember all the World War I biplanes and triplanes
like them
from the
all,
last
buddy.
video? Here they all are. They've all come back into roost. Now there's going to be a little bit of chopper noise running in the background. Unfortunately, the World War I area was set right alongside where they were doing all of the public chopper flights, so there were helicopters, 3 or 4 landing at a time every few moments. This is what was generating all the racket. This place was busy as hell. The line to actually go up for chopper flights was longer than I think I've ever seen at any airshow event. There were at least a couple of hundred people waiting for various flights. The choppers in the background that are parked at the moment are actually only down because it was lunchtime and the pilots were getting a feed. So the World War I display was put on by the Australian Vintage Aviation Society, and this is their Fokker DR1. The collection they actually flew here and put on display for the public was amazing. There was the Fokker DR1s, there was the Fokker Irondecker, the Fokker D7, the Fokker D8. The Vintage Aviators flew over from New Zealand, and they bought their own DR1 as well as a DH5 and their Sopwith Camel. The RAAF put their Sopwith Camel on display as well as their Sopwith Pup. There were a couple of Newport 11s, I mean the list just went on and on. Now I absolutely love this scene. For anybody out there who thinks planes and military aviation is just for the guys, I think the women who put this thing together and fly it would probably want to have a very strong word with you about that. Now you'll notice all over the ground cables running from underneath the wings of the aircraft to a giant chain that is running the entire length of this display area. That is because these aircraft are actually so light that the wind blowing at the moment, if it was to get underneath the wings in a head-on, would actually lift these planes off the ground and cause them to take off. The aircraft of World War I, and this included what they used to have to do on the actual World War I airfields, they actually had to chain them to the ground so that the wind didn't blow their aircraft away. And there's the Newport 11. This was actually the first time I've ever seen a Newport in person. I always visualised them as being slightly larger than they actually were, but it wasn't actually much bigger than a small family sedan. Inside the tent that was running behind the outdoor display was an extremely rare find. This is an RAF RE8, all mocked up for combat, all the weapons in the correct positions. I wish I could have got you a better angle on this thing, but there just wasn't enough room. This tent was so full. So we leave the World War I area and step into the World War II recreation area. Now this particular area was set up to look like a midfield World War II base. It was set up with the kind of facilities you would expect to find on a reserve runway behind Allied aircraft. Now I never actually realised how small an M31 was until I really got this shot of my son standing next to one. The whole ambience of this area was amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't get a recording of the entry to this area. This particular area, walking into it, had displays on the left and right hand side, having all of the Victoria Cross winners and famous aces and soldiers who went above and beyond the call of duty and lost their lives as a result of their actions and their bravery. So after leaving the World War II recreation area, I decided to go in and have a quick look around the trade tents, and this area just reeked of money. Some of the displays were absolutely amazing, but I didn't have a chance to stay in here for too long. Because I heard the call of my people.
Today it should be Doug Hamilton.
And of course, there had to be a drone on display. This is the RO4 Global Hawk, one of Australia's newest drones, and it's amazing how big this thing actually was. You think of drones and you think small. Honestly, if they're going to build a drone this big, I can't see why they just didn't put a cockpit in it. They're not cheap either, at a little over $131 million US per unit. Personally, I have mixed feelings about military aircraft without pilots. I'm not entirely sure I like the idea, but I can see their usage, as the Global Hawks are intended to survey Australia's extremely large coastline for extended periods of time. So as we were making our way towards the exit, the show had just a couple more gems to show us. For those of you out there who are tank lovers, there you go. And as promised, the last aircraft that I saw before leaving the Avalon Airshow, the Canberra. It's really hard to get an idea on exactly how small these planes are until you get some people standing next to them. In this case, a couple of school kids waiting for their bus home. So ladies and gents, that was the Avalon Airshow, or the Australian International Airshow 2015. I'm looking forward to going to more airshows in the future. I'm hoping very soon to pick up a 1080p 60 HD camera, which should make the video quality on these in the future much better. Still had an absolutely amazing time. If you haven't been to an airshow before, if there's ever one on in your area or close enough that you're able to get to it, I cannot recommend it enough. It is truly an experience. Anyways, ladies and gents, click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.